What is up, YouTube? It is Docky or Docky Style Gaming, and I am back at it with another GodFall video for you all today. And in this video, we're going to be looking at some more stuff from the press kit that has surprisingly not been shown off yet. So in the press kit, there was actually quite a few different folders that had a bunch of different things. It was the press release, the fact sheets, video folders, image folders, and GIF folders. In this video, we're going to be going over all the images that we were able to see in this press kit, and some of them were actually titled, giving us a bit more information on some of the things we might expect to see in GodFall. Now, the three folders of note in this press kit are the trailer screenshots, PS5 screenshots, and PC screenshots. Now, the trailer screenshots are really just screenshots from the very first trailer, but there is some stuff I want to point out on there, so I won't spend too much time on the trailer screenshots, whereas the PS5 and PC screenshots are where all the newer information is. So hopping right into the trailer screenshots, we get to see, of course, the main three that we see in just about every trailer. We have Silvermane front and center. He seems to be the poster boy of the game. Then we have the white armored Valor Plate Knight, which from looking at other trailers, he seems to be a more Eagle inspired armor set. And then we still have that red one. I'm not 100% sure what that one is supposed to be. Again, we do know that they're supposed to be Zodiac inspired, but there are a bunch of different Zodiacs and a bunch of different religions and cultures all over the world, so they might be taking different Zodiacs from different religions and cultures, so this might not be your traditional Zodiac creature that we're used to. Now, this next picture we have seen in the trailer, of course, and this is towards the end of the trailer, but according to Keith Lee, he did say that this big obelisk that we're looking at is called the Sky Breakers Monolith, and where the characters are standing at the Earth realm looking towards and going towards the water realm in the game. And again, they did say, even in this article, that the realms or the world is split up into 5 different realms: Earth, Water, Air, Fire, and Spirit. Now, hopping over to the PS5 folder in this press kit, we get to see only one image, surprisingly. Most of the bulk of the photos come from the PC screenshots, which I want to say there's about 8 different photos in there. But for PlayStation, for some reason, PlayStation 5, their folder only has one screenshot in it. But personally, in my opinion, it's one of the more unique places. Now, when I went over all these screenshots, when I was looking at them, it looked like these are all in the same realm. Again, we don't know which one they're on currently. If I had to assume or guess, it's probably the Earth, maybe Air realm. I mean, it doesn't really look too earthy, and I only say air because, as we'll see in some of the other screenshots, a lot of the architecture is built really high. Now, it could be Spirit too, but for some reason, as of late, they've been kind of hiding Spirit as one of the other realms. Even in the most recent trailer, they only mentioned 4. So I'm not sure if per se we're going to be getting all 5 of them at launch, or maybe Spirit is planned DLC in the future. But in the original article and multiple articles, they did say that there were 5 different realms. Even in the press kit, they said there was 5 different realms, but as of late to the public, they've been saying that there's only 4. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this Spirit realm. But hopping over to the PS5 screenshot, here it is. And like I said, to me, it definitely looks like one of the more unique areas. Now, again, I almost bring this up in almost all of my GodFall videos, but this screenshot in particular really gives me Infinity Blade vibes. Now, I don't know if anybody's ever played Infinity Blade, but specifically the third game, the Pinnacle Monastery, that's what exactly I'm getting from this. The red, the architecture, just everything about it seems just like that, or reminiscent of it. I shouldn't say just like it, but again, I'm always dig the environments. Everything new we get to see with the environments look pretty good. And as we'll see, like I said, I think all the screenshots we see are on the same realm, but the amount of different environments that are all in the same realm is pretty vast. So I think that might give us a bit of the scope on how big each of the realms actually are. From the trailers, I think we've only seen 2, maybe 3 different realms. I know for sure we've seen the water realm, and then we've kind of seen this one multiple times throughout almost every single one of the trailers. I mean, again, we've probably seen some of the other ones. It's just kind of harder to decipher, but the 2 that stand out the most to me that we've seen have been the water and then this current one that we see in a lot of these screenshots. But outside of this screenshot, there's not really too much to take in outside of the architecture. We do get to see a unique weapon on his back as well that I don't think we've seen in any of the trailers. It almost looks like it has a barrel in the blade, so that's kind of interesting. and by the size of it, I'm assuming that's one of the greatsword variants. Again, there's 5 different weapon types in the game: longsword, greatsword, dual blades, hammers, and polearms. And again, like I said, this one looks to be a greatsword. It's kind of hard to decipher the greatswords and the long swords, but I'm assuming that's the greatsword just by the width of it. But now let's hop on to the most important, in my opinion, photos from this press kit, which are from the PC screenshots. Now again, like I said, PC had about 8 different photos in their screenshot folder. So let's go over the first 2, which are actually titled in the folder, called Boss 1 and Boss 2. So looking at Boss 1, this is a boss that we've seen multiple times in multiple trailers. He's that massive golden cyclops looking armored boss. He looks pretty unique. I really like the design of him. And then we also get to see what appears to be the stage that you'll be fighting him in, this fully golden room, which again, we got to see in one of the most recent trailers that came out as well. And then again, if you look in the background, it's more of that architecture that seemed to be built up high in the sky. The boss design definitely looks great. His weapons appears to be a huge blade on one arm. Again, we get to see that third red Valor plate that we still don't know exactly what it's supposed to be, but we do get to see some really nice details, some glowing bits on it. He has his shield active, and that one actually might look like it's the long sword because it doesn't look as big or massive as the great sword. So that might be an easier distinction between the two, but it looks like he's using a long sword. Now the next one is pretty interesting because we only got to see him for a very brief second in one of the trailers. We got to see the side of its head, but it is another boss image, and it is of a 4-armed shaman-like boss. It'll be pretty interesting to see how this fight goes, but from what we see from the photo, at least, is he's draped in a bunch of black cloth. He has a red skull-like face and a huge magical staff, it appears. And again, if you look in the background and some of the architecture, we're still seeing the same red weaves and some of the more ornate architecture in the game. So again, I think all these screenshots that we're seeing are from the same realm. But this is a pretty unique shot. I don't think anybody has shown off this new boss so far. Like I said, I know for a fact we saw him very briefly in one of the trailers. We saw the side of his face, but here we get to see him in his entirety. Now the next 2 images are of Silvermane, and they literally say Combat Silvermane PC 4K is what the description of these images are in the folder. And in them, we essentially are just seeing Silvermane attacking an enemy. We get to see another rock, maybe lava-like creature already dead on the ground, and then we see him attacking a current one as it stands. But if we look in the background, some of the things I at least noticed that caught my eye right off the bat was it looks like there's a loot orb in the background on the ledge on the right-hand side. Now, I don't know if that's just for decoration or if it's a container you can break and possibly it'll drop loot for you, but that for sure is the same model of it. It just looks like it has a ring around it, but again, maybe it's something you can bust to get the loot to drop out of. Now, we have seen this place that they're fighting in the trailer with the piles of gold everywhere, some of the more golden ornate themed architecture, but again, if you look closely outside the window, you see a lot of the red weaves, leading me to assume we're still in the same realm. Now, on to the next shot of Silvermane, we get to see him actually swiping or slashing through another enemy, while again, another one is on the ground dead. Now, something to take note of in the background that I noticed as well, outside of, again, red weaves, but something else to take note of is of the big statue in the background, which looks to be of another knight. Now, we don't know if that's necessarily going to be another Valor plate or a design of one, but it was something that was interesting to take note of, and we have seen him in quite a few different trailers. Possibly it could just be a statue of the main villain of the game, Macros, who is this godlike being that we're supposed to be fighting. So it could be of him, but it could also be potentially of another Valorian. Now, these next 4 shots are of the environment. I really think they're just trying to show off the scale and the scope of how big and ornate some of these places are going to be. But again, there's some other things to nitpick in some of these photos. So on to the next one, we get to see that eagle-like knight with a polearm weapon on his shoulder, which again, this is another new one that we didn't get to see in any of the trailers. course. But again, we get to see 2 more statues of night-like beings. Now these look to potentially be different from the statue that we saw in the last photo, but it's kind of hard to tell from this far away. It could be potentially the same exact statue, just in a different pose, but it'd be interesting to see if maybe this is a palace of the Archons, which, if you don't know who those are, I made a whole video on pretty much the lore that we got from some of the tweets and posts on their Twitter. But this shot alone, in my opinion, is pretty impressive. Just the scale of everything and the lighting. Like I said, again, if you haven't played Infinity Blade, that solar flare through the holes in the wall is almost exactly reminiscent of something you'd see in Infinity Blade. Now this next photo is pretty interesting as well. We get to see that red looking knight as well. We get to see it from the back, and apparently has very long hair. The armor appears to be a bit brighter as well, and for sure this Valorian or Valor Plate is wielding one of the larger swords, or long swords I should say. And then we also get to see the scope of this realm. Again, I really think these environments are to just show the scale and the size of some of the places that will be going on in GodFall. Now this next shot is nothing too special, again just showing off the environment, but it does look good nonetheless. Again, we can see a bunch more of the red trees, the architecture that's built high on some of these rocks, a bunch of the gold trim stone faced walls. Like I said, it looks just visually stunning, but outside of that, nothing too special from this photo. And then the last photo in the PC screenshot is pretty interesting because we get a bit closer and higher resolution image of some of the enemies in the game. And the more interesting part about it is that all 4 enemies on screen appear to be completely different. They appear to be of the same race or species, but the types are all different. Now starting from the furthest right and then working our way left, we see a 2-legged, I guess reptile-like creature, full of armor and holding a 2-handed weapon, probably a hammer, maybe a mace, staff, something of that nature. And then if we move over to the enemy right beside it, this one has a bow, letting us know there will be some ranged enemies in the game, so everything's not going to just be rushing up and hitting you. You'll probably have to dodge some ranged attacks as well. And in one of my breakdowns, it looked like one of the creatures actually had some weird ornate shotgun, so it'll be interesting to see how some of these ranged enemies actually play, and depending on the realms, if there's going to have different functions or features. Now to the enemy in the middle that the Eagle Valor Plate is fighting with this huge brand new looking hammer, which, speaking of new weapon, it looks like all 3 of the Valorians or Valor Plates have brand new weapons. That's a new polearm that we haven't seen. That's definitely a brand new hammer I don't think we've seen. And the sword that the 3rd one's holding might be something we've seen, but again, it's kind of far away, but it looks unique to me. But 3rd enemy that's in the middle is a hooded enemy who looks like it has 2 weapons in each, or a weapon in each hand. So far what we see 3 different types of enemies. We have a 2-handed weapon or large weapon. We have a ranged enemy type. We have an enemy type that looks like it has weapons in both of his hands. And then the final enemy all the way at the end that the unknown Valor Plate is fighting, we see a enemy on all 4 legs, a more creature-like enemy. Well, I mean, all of these are kind of creatures, but an animalistic-like creature on the ground on all 4 of its legs, which we did see in the trailer. We saw them fight a multiple of them, and it's just pretty interesting to see and to take from just this screenshot alone all the different enemy types, at least just right here. Now we did see in a lot of the other trailers that there are multiple variations of enemies along with different species of enemies, different sizes of them, and even of the bosses, because in the most recent trailer they did say one of the bosses was more of a mini boss and not even a full-on boss. So it's interesting to see the amount of enemies in the game. But outside of the enemy types, again, we get to see more of the world. We see a large structure in the back and them fighting in a red weaved forest. Now, it would be kind of nice if we got to see a bit more of the realms, but from what we got so far, it still looks, just like I said, visually appealing. Now that was the final PC photo, but there's still one more photo I wanted to show off, and it's kind of irritating that I didn't look at this one from the start, even considering I'm pretty sure I used it for one of my thumbnails at one point. But according to the article, if the PlayStation Lifestyle article is correct, the big obelisk that we're looking at with the big water maelstrom above, that means the realm that they're on currently, or where most of these photos are taking place on, is the Earth realm. Which, like I said, I guess I wasn't too far off. I was assuming it was Earth or potentially air. But according to Keith Lee from the trailer, this big Sky Breaker Monolith with the water coming from above it is leading to the water realm, while we are on the Earth realm. Which I guess this would make a bit more sense on if this is the only environment they're showing. If this is in fact supposed to be the start of the game, it makes sense. Plus, now that I think about it, I think if you go back and look at the very first trailer, it kind of does match up with these screenshots. So this in fact is the Earth realm. I think I'm pretty confident in saying that all the screenshots we just took a look at today are from, in fact, the Earth realm. Outside of that photo, the other ones are pretty much nothing really to take note of. There are a bunch of like logos, promotional stuff, key art, stuff that we've seen before and stuff that really isn't showing off anything new. But hopefully you enjoyed the breakdown on some of these photos. I probably missed some stuff, not gonna lie, but let me know in the comment section below if I did. I wanna say I covered most of it, but I might have missed something. So that's pretty much all I got to cover in this video about the new images from the press kit. Again, like I said, let me know if there's anything you think I missed in the comment section. I probably did, I don't know, but if I did, be sure to let me know. Thank you all for watching. Like always, links to my social media accounts are in the video description. I will catch you all in the next one. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the love. Thanks for the subs. Peace.